All right, we're recording. It's our first video review because we just got out of Halloween, so we were waiting for the first big thing that we really was waiting for to do it. We got a lot of us here tonight because we were all very, very excited. So this is the first time we've actually done something visual
in the car.
So we should say who we are. I'm Bob.
I am Cody.
I'm Kim. Hey.
Right back there.
I'm Tony.
And I'm Matt.
Matt hasn't wrote anything for the site, but he's welcome to if he likes to. He has his own podcast. What's your podcast, sir?
It's the Cinema Triforce, people.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Halloween for a few minutes. We're not going to get really spoilery because we only have a few minutes. Just going to talk about what we liked. And so, general consensus. What are we thinking?
Extremely entertaining. Very entertaining. Wonderfully messy and imperfect, but extremely entertaining.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some good shots in the movie. There's some tense fucking moments.
Yeah, so a lot of the big scare sequences are very tense and very not jump scare later.
Yeah, I never felt like cheated. Like
yeah.
This is like with the nun. You know, we're like, oh, it's building to a jump scare,
and then
jump scare.
Or if you're in the 40X seats.
Which you didn't see us in 40X, so a regular show, because this isn't available on the 40X.
It's probably for the best.
Yes.
I mean, you would just be getting like stabbed in the back repeatedly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a choice.
Because there's lots of stabbing, but Michael was very brutal.
Yes.
And I appreciate that. It didn't really cut away.
Yes.
It's very brutal without being like overly done, so where it's like being mean, like some movies would do, or just we're just gonna drag us out.
It's not lingering on it. He is set on killing, and he does.
There's even some aftermath. There's some where you don't even see it happen. You see what had happened.
Which gets back to, I think, the really quite impressive composition of a lot of the shots.
Yeah.
I was watching it from, I think I preferred the first half to the last half. For the first half, it really, I mean, I enjoyed it all, but the first half to me felt like it was really trying to do some very unusual things stylistically. It felt almost like a graphic novel version of a Halloween story to me, intermingled with some, and I see Italian horror cinema and everything, some Italian horror cinema. I think there are really some shots there that have the kind of eye-popping color and fluidity and flow of like shots from kind of prime vintage Italian cinema circa 70s and 80s.
I really liked that opening before the credits hit.
That was
because that built and built and built.
My heart was just going. I'm like,
what the fuck is gonna happen?
Though I'm pretty sure nothing's gonna happen. It was still amazing to when it comes to Halloween.
Obviously we won't say what happens, but like it could have been anything from like nothing to like he could have like ripped like half that sanitarium apart, and I would have been like, okay, that was building to that.
Can I also just give a shout out to the opening credits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not only is it like a lot of things in the movie a throwback to 78 and references here and there, but actually it does. What's great that makes me think of the throwbacks, like there are a lot of throwbacks, a lot of shots, a lot of references, a lot of reversals from before, but not done in a cloying way where it's like, hey, here's the thing, it was natural. It was done very well.
Like
there is one point where they really build to it, and that's an inversion. We won't be spoiler, but that's an inversion of a character disappearing and reappearing.
But even then, the opening credits is an inversion.
Yeah. True that.
It was a nice balance of the old and the new, where that was concerned. There's plenty to enjoy that is unprecedented, and while there's also some great referential stuff. And that John Carpenter got to like readdress his own composition was great. I loved seeing his name doing the score, and there's some new pieces that he did that I thought were really great. Yeah,
I was honestly a little concerned because I thought, okay, he's just going to put out like the same thing with a couple new beats, but it felt like a build, and it felt like a sequel to his original score.
Natural progression too.
And I can't wait to go out and buy it and add it to the Halloween scores they have.
Yeah.
We get a new John Carpenter album out of this, so if anything, the movie's great. But
I missed his concert the last time, so I want to go see that.
Me too.
I had to be work. I know Tony saw it because we talked about it when it happened.
Yeah, it was quite wonderful. I was solidly entertained through the whole thing. You can quibble. I think I would have liked to have had more downtime with Laurie Strode. Because Jamie Lee Curtis, just the character sketch that we get of Laurie Strode in the movie, I think is absolutely riveting, and I think I'm of two minds about the lack of the kind of relative lack of development of her character. On one level, it's a little frustrating because Curtis is excellent and you want more of her. But on another level, I guess now that I think about it, it's in keeping with this kind of what I feel is kind of like this graphic novel approach to the movie, like visually as well as like story-wise.
I really loved Curtis in this because, of course, generally she's always great. Yeah. But I really like the continuation of the character. It wasn't you really feel like what she's felt in the last 40 years. And in some ways you do feel like, oh, I get over it. In some ways you do actually feel it. But anytime that I thought, okay, maybe she isn't worried about this, and then there's a shot of this one look of her, like she gives a look out to nothing, into the middle distance.
That dinner scene I thought was really powerful.
Yeah.
Like it really does do a good job of like portraying the PTSD she has.
Yeah.
Because it's not something you would really shake off too easily.
Yeah. Even 40 years after the fact, and this is a universe where only the first movie happened, since Halloween 2 is now even gone. Which
Ben Tramer lives.
Ben Tramer got to live. We didn't get any references to him. I was hoping for some justice for Ben Tramer.
So
I was really hoping the cop was gonna be Ben Tramer. That'd be like a nice turnaround.
Which, speaking of which, the cop was Will Patton from Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Yeah.
Was it Waterworld?
A couple other things.
I did not recognize him at first.
It's been a few years.
Yeah. It's...
And speaking of like him and the other side characters or people returning, like the new Loomis, that's kind of spoilery because he's not in the trailers, but we're not gonna say anything happens to his character. But I really like in many ways it felt like almost a remake in some ways. Of course, we just have Halloween, but a lot of the same beats.
I definitely thought that the first half was definitely like really not like overtly a remake, but you could definitely tell where they were taking
like
inspiration.
Force Awakens / Creed type remake. Taking the bone to something else and putting new skin on it.
Yeah.
That you still know with the skeleton beneath it. Yeah, and if I had one quibble was that maybe you said you wanted Jamie Lee Curtis to be drawn a little better, but some of the side characters I thought we kind of set up and then really didn't pay off.
The boyfriend character.
Yeah, he just drops out of the narrative.
I kind of expected that to reemerge at some point, and it didn't.
And I wonder if there's like a longer cut.
Blu-ray extras.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we could get some follow-up on that.
And on that note, that was maybe the one disappointment I could have is that there's a cell phone issue where I really wanted to see the phone ringing on the other end. After a distinct moment with that phone.
Yes.
I really wanted to see it ringing, and we didn't get to.
Well, and there were a lot of characters. And I think because there were so many characters, again, there was you didn't really get a lot of time to care about a few of them.
Yeah.
Because you see them for a scene or two, and it's like, okay, cool, nice knowing you.
We luckily did get there's a couple ones I thought that we were going to get a one and done, but we did actually get extended sequences, like the babysitter.
Yeah.
And we got a little bit about them, and they had enough charm to feel for them.
I really wish that they had used Judy Greer a bit more, because she kind of disappears for like a big part of the movie, and I feel like she's more part of Laurie's story than they give her.
Well, they transferred it, I think, to the granddaughter. Bigger
who also drops out for a little bit. We're going to almost generally kind of spoiler, rather in direct moments, kind of overall. But going for following with that, I did it like without saying what happens in the climax. That climax was really, really amazing because I think it's set up to everything for each of those characters, and we get their comeuppance, but their payoff to everything is set up in the first half.
Yeah.
And that was a really powerful moment. You feel it in the theater when certain things happen. It was just jazzed.
Yeah. I was also very impressed with the level of mercilessness in it without it feeling overly gratuitous.
Exactly.
And it's like just merciless enough to help ratchet up the tension.
Unlike the deaths in the Rob Zombie ones we talked about on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, find our podcast.
No cows getting bounced over.
Fuck. But for like Annie's death or Dee Wallace's death, Crypticon guest, Dee Wallace's death, and
we went into that how unnecessarily long that was.
Yeah.
On our podcast at citygeek.com, find us on SoundCloud, soon on iTunes,
and we got
everywhere.
59 downloads last time, so
keeping
it up.
Badass.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And of course, since we did say we're from City of Geek, but if you're finding us on YouTube and you haven't come from anything that we worked on, ourcitygeek.com, and this is our first video, so of course, like, comment, subscribe. I threw that in the middle rather than at the end, but because we didn't mention the beginning.
We promise they won't all be in cars.
Yes, or with 5 of us shoved in a car at the end of the night. But we really wanted to talk about it.
I'm going to call the union about this.
There's a union?
We don't have a union, man.
But going back to, like,
I wish.
The little bit of the brutality thing, and how much, but we did actually get some, like, feeling of what happened afterwards, something that gave some, not, I want to say depth is the word, but follow through, which so we actually feel for what happened. Yeah. We get the, but I can't think of the exact word, but hard isn't the right word either, but it isn't just a one, like, someone's killed and then we never see them again type thing. We get to see in the aftermath we get the feeling of what everyone else who's dealing with the aftermath is going through, which kind of relates to the whole thing about Laurie going after this 40 years later.
Well, and it's also just pretty rare, I feel like, even when you have characters returning for sequels, you don't get to see long-term effects, and you don't get to see, I think, a realistic portrayal of how this could affect someone's life, because it does. It's not just like, oh yeah, this thing happened last summer, but it's fine now.
Okay.
Like, it's, no, I mean, it legitimately, like, this can really fuck with you. And so it was kind of nice seeing that it wasn't just, you know, and she lived her life and it was great and sunshine and roses, like.
Well, but this is, I think this is a grand tradition in a lot of truly classic horror movies. I think of 10 years previous to the original Halloween, Night of the Living Dead, and the character that Judith O'Dea plays, who is actually given the freedom to be in mourning and shock and utter chaos in light of her brother's death, and she doesn't shove it off in 5 minutes. Yeah, this movie parallels that spiritually, because you see the characters actually being given, especially Laurie Strode, obviously to the nth degree, the freedom to actually, well, the realism, for want of a better term, to feel that that something's been affecting them for an extended length of time. There is a whole history of emotional pain that's there that is, again, it transcends the one and done mentality of a lot of modern horror cinema. Now, I was really pleased with it, actually.
So we're trying to keep this short today because it is hot. There's a bunch of us in here and we have things to do in the morning. But so I did want to.
You're Bob.
So we did want to briefly maybe give a final thought and then maybe a little, kind of go into spoilers just a little bit and then call it a night. So before we get into spoilers, people want to cut off at this point. Final kind of non-spoilery thoughts on Halloween. Maybe it's a grade level or kind of like what you think, maybe in the whole series or something like that.
I would say
I
would say B+, definitely. I thought it was great. I don't think it passed into that legendary status, but I thought it was probably the best, like, follow-up entry that they've had.
Yeah, it feels like a true sequel to the first.
I mean, because even Halloween 2 has its kind of like.
Halloween 2 kind of came with stock and slash, and a lot of it. And Laurie's.
It feels like a way better sequel, and it's a way better H2O without the like, hey, we're Scream now kind of thing to it.
That also touched on PTSD, but in a slightly different way.
It had LL Cool J reading about big melon breasts.
It was going for that Whittier thing. It was going for the meta, in a way that this which still had some great references and great funny moments, but it didn't feel quite so. We're trying to be clever because that's what's popular right now.
Yeah, there was very little tongue in cheek.
There were a couple winks, but nothing egregious.
Gratuitous.
Yeah, it was like a wink and not a hey.
Yeah.
Like there's for sliding right into spoilers is that the big wink where Laurie disappears from the balcony.
Yeah.
I got a huge response. I was like, oh, I know this is coming, and then of course that's what I don't know if that's reversal, the one you mentioned earlier, but that was I thought a great reversal, and then
the music hit.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we all know this, and sleep breathing moment. So something I've just been thinking about throughout the doctor. And the brief moment where we think we're going into a different movie.
Oh man, I so thought we were going into a different movie.
I thought we were watching a fucking crazy Italian ripoff of Halloween.
Dr. Loomis is the killer.
I was ready for it too.
It was dude,
Loomis.
Giala.
New Dr.
Oh, yeah.
Loomis.
You're a veteran geologist too. There was that character straight out of.
Oh God! I'm like,
He
dude,
is that-
did you get
Expected him to be
lost?
dubbed a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me about it.
Just a little off.
He even looked like he could have been played by Lucio Fulci.
Yes, could
Well,
have
because
happened.
I will say too, from the second he was like, "I must be on the bus," I'm like, "Dude's gonna be the reason the bus crashes. He's gonna get him out.
Yeah.
You are in on this, my friend. You're in on it."
It's like, I want to
And-
see what happens.
And when I was like, "Dude."
And
That way
his
he
death
kinda-
is even straight out of like an Italian horror
Like I was
film.
Yeah.
expecting him to twirl his mustache while he said it. Too.
That was a sweet mustache. Not
Yes.
Tom Atkins, but good. But that was sweet.
Yes.
No one's mustache like Tom Atkins.
It's true.
That was just a moment that could have been played really silly because I heard some people snicker in the audience when he came up and he's wearing the mask. I was like, okay, we're going somewhere else.
Yeah, it was.
It's like, but if I got kind of just turned that a little bit just to move the plot forward in a way, and also
Well-
to talk a little bit about where the line is between monster and
And they
Batman.
kind of hint at it with the whole monsters creating other
Yeah.
newer
Yeah.
monsters, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's going to be Laurie. Now it's the Doctor.
Nope.
Yeah.
Well, and the way he talked about Loomis being like, he's the only one that saw him
In the field.
in the
Yeah.
field or whatever.
Yeah.
In the wild.
Like, dude, he's a serial killer.
And the way he said that, I was like, dude, that's fucked. Man. Even I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I don't think that's how you're supposed to refer to it. That seems wrong.
Do you think he like stood over Michael at night when he was sleeping? He's like,
Kill again.
come
Mama
on.
loves you,
So it makes me wonder if did he kind of let Michael out, because he talked about
Yes.
Michael
Yeah.
overpowers. Like, no, I'm just gonna unlock you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Michael was handcuffed. He overpowered the guard with some help.
Of course, Michael overpowers people pretty easily.
Yeah, but he still had handcuffs on,
Yes.
and then he didn't. Wait, by the time we first see him, he has no handcuffs.
Is your
Oh, yeah,
battery
fair enough.
almost dead?
Oh, damn it! I probably because we were talking. So and then, but I also want to mention my